It is 10:47 p.m. on a Friday, and you are standing in your bedroom with one sock on, staring at your phone, and the phone will not stop buzzing. Group chat. 6 messages in under a minute. Tanner. Bro, get ready. Wes. New spot downtown just opened. Heard it's actually good. Tanner. $40 cover, but trust me. Priya. You guys coming or not? You do not answer right away. You open a different app instead. Not the group chat, your banking app. The number on the screen reads $46.12, and you look at it the way you'd look at a stranger's face you almost recognize. You are not broke. 3 hours ago, you moved $310 into an account none of these people know exists, and $46.12 is simply what's left in checking until Thursday. You type back one word. Nah. 3 dots appear. Disappear. Appear again. Tanner. You're always broke, bro. You set the phone face down on the dresser and sit on the edge of your bed with the one sock still on. And here is the thing nobody in that group chat knows yet. The thing you barely know yourself. In 400 and some days, one of those 4 people is going to lose something he cannot get back with an apology or a payment plan. And you are going to be the only person in that chat who isn't scared of his own bank account. This isn't a story about getting rich. You will not be rich by the end of it. This is a story about the 400 nights nobody was watching, and it starts almost a year before that Friday. On an ordinary Tuesday, you still think about more than you'd admit. You are 20 years old. Your name doesn't matter for this part of the story. What matters is the number. $2,412 a month after taxes from a job at a call center off Route 9 that nobody puts on a resume with pride. 3 roommates, 1 apartment, 1 rent number that eats just over a third of what you make before you've bought a single thing. Sign 1. You start noticing where the money actually goes. It happens on a Tuesday. You're walking home from a closing shift, past the same strip mall you've walked past 200 times, and you notice a folding table set up outside a building 2 streets over. A mattress leaning against the brick. A guy maybe 50, sitting on the curb with his phone in his hand, staring at nothing in particular. You don't know his story. You never find out. But something about the specific stillness of his face, the look of a man who assumed there would always be more time to figure it out, follows you the rest of the walk home. You don't do anything dramatic that night. You just open a blank note on your phone before bed and start writing down every dollar you spent that week. $18 for a shirt you already own 2 of, in a different color you didn't need. $34 for a night out you can't fully account for by Sunday. $9.47 for something on your statement you genuinely cannot place. You stare at that one the longest. It adds up faster than you expect. Not because you're reckless, because for 2 years you've been spending the way almost everyone your age spends, unconsciously, on autopilot, with nobody ever sitting you down to explain the difference between money you meant to spend and money that just left. This year, the average American under 35 carries a savings rate that barely clears single digits. Once rent and debt payments are accounted for, and roughly 4 in 10 adults say they couldn't cover a surprise $400 expense without borrowing or selling something. You don't know that statistic yet. You just know your own number, and your own number is the only one that's ever going to change anything. So you do something small, but small enough that you're a little embarrassed by how small it is. You open a second account, no card attached, no app icon sitting on your home screen where it can tempt you every time you unlock your phone. In your head, you don't call it savings. You call it the account they can't see. First deposit, $50. Tanner spends more than that before midnight most Fridays without thinking twice. You know exactly what he'd say if he found out. So you don't tell him. Sign 2? You start noticing what other people don't notice about themselves. There's a Kroger 4 blocks from the apartment. Regular Tuesday, nothing special about it. The guy in line ahead of you's buying energy drinks, a bag of chips, a frozen pizza, and a candy bar. He grabbed off the impulse rack at the register. $61.40, gone before the week has even properly started, and you watch him tap his card without so much as glancing at the total. You step up next. Rice, eggs, a bag of frozen vegetables, chicken thighs, because they were on sale, marked down from $4.99 to $2.79 a pound, $14.62. Nobody claps for that receipt. Nobody's filming a grocery haul of rice and eggs for their story. But you don't need anyone to clap. You need the version of yourself 18 months from now to be able to thank you. And that's a different kind of audience entirely. That night, you do quiet math in your head, the kind you'll get better at over the next year without ever really trying to. If you keep living exactly like this, not extreme, not miserable, just aware, you could have real savings by the time your lease is up. Right? It feels impossible and boring at the exact same time. You'll come to learn that those two feelings showing up together usually means something is actually about to change. Your mother calls a few weeks in. Her name is Linda, and she asks, half joking, whether you're eating enough, whether you're going out, whether you're actually living your 20s or just working through them. You tell her you're fine. You don't mention the second account. You don't mention the notebook. Some things are easier to explain once they've already worked, and right now nothing has worked yet. It's just a number that isn't zero. 6 weeks pass, the account sits at $310. Not much. You know it's not much. But $310 that didn't exist 6 weeks ago, built entirely out of nights. You almost said yes to something and said no instead. Tanner finances a car that fall. A used Civic, nothing extravagant, but financed at 13.9% over 60 months because the dealership handled the paperwork faster than the credit union could get back to him. $340 a month. You do the math later on your own, the way you've started doing math on other people's decisions without meaning to. Over 5 years, that car costs him just over $20,400. The car itself is worth about $14,000 the day he drives it off the lot. Wes books a trip to Cancun with Devon, splits it 3 ways through a buy now, pay later app that turns a $900 flight and hotel package into 3 payments of $300 that feel, in the moment, like almost nothing. You watch. You don't say a word. You're not trying to win an argument nobody in that apartment is even having. You're trying to win something quieter, something with no audience at all. Sign 3. You almost lose it, and the almost is the whole point. There's a night this nearly falls apart, and this part matters because it's not supposed to go the way it goes. You've had a brutal week, long shifts, a manager named Craig who's spoken to you twice this month, like your time doesn't count for much. The kind of week that makes spending money feel like something the universe owes you. At 11:04 p.m., you open a shopping app. You add a jacket to the cart, $87.60 with tax. Not because you need it, because you want just once to feel the same small rush everyone else in that apartment seems to feel every single Friday. Your thumb hovers over buy now. You sit with it for a second longer than you expect to. Then you close the app, not because you're stronger than Tanner or Wes or anyone else in that building, because you remember in that exact second what $87.60 actually is, not a jacket. Roughly 4 more weeks of quiet growth, left completely alone to do what compounding does when nobody interrupts it. You don't feel proud. You just feel tired and a little older than 20. You'll come to understand over the next 18 months that this is usually what discipline actually feels like from the inside. Not triumphant, just quiet and a little uncomfortable and easy to mistake for nothing happening at all. A few weeks later, you open an investing app for the first time. Your hands are unsure on the screen the way people's hands are unsure the first time they're doing something that isn't supposed to require permission, but somehow feels like it does. You put in $200 into a broad index fund, the boring kind, expense ratio 0.03%, the kind of ticker nobody's ever brought up at a party. The number goes up $2 the next morning. Down 3, The day after. It feels like almost nothing. Watching numbers shift by less than the price of a coffee, but you keep going anyway. $100 the next month, $150 the month after that, automatic, unremarkable, completely invisible to everyone in that apartment but you. Around this time, you start seeing someone. Her name is Naomi, a co-worker from a shift that overlaps yours. Someone who laughs easily and doesn't take herself too seriously. Your first few outings are cheap by accident, more than by design. A walk along the river, a $4 coffee, a free outdoor movie night downtown that a local brewery sponsors every August. Tanner teases you once about never taking her anywhere nice. You shrug it off. You've started to understand slowly that the version of yourself worth being with isn't the one performing generosity he can't actually afford. Naomi never once asks you to prove anything with money. That tells you more about her than almost anything else could. Sign 4. Someone close to you tests the plan without knowing it's a test. 8 months in, a guy from your old high school starts posting screenshots of a coin that's supposedly about to 10 times. Wes gets pulled in fast, puts in $600. He doesn't really have to spare. Convinced this is the shortcut that skips the whole slow, boring process entirely. You're tempted too, not because you're foolish, because a small, tired part of you is exhausted by how slow all of this is, and the idea of skipping 18 months in a single weekend is genuinely seductive. You spend 2 nights actually looking into it. You ask questions that make the enthusiasm on the other end noticeably quieter. Nobody can explain, in plain language, where the value is actually supposed to come from. You don't put in a single dollar. 3 weeks later, the coin is down 94%. Wes doesn't bring it up again. Nobody has to say anything. The silence says enough. A night out with the whole group happens around then, the kind none of you will specifically remember a year from now. Everyone orders round after round. You order one drink and make it last the entire night, laughing at the same jokes, staying exactly as long as everyone else, and leaving with $73 more in your pocket than the guy standing next to you at the bar. Nobody notices what you didn't spend. That's the entire architecture of what you're building, invisible by design. Tanner knocks on your door one evening, a little embarrassed, and asks to borrow $40 until payday. You have it instantly. You hand it over without a lecture, without a second of hesitation. This was never about being better than the people around you. It was about being ready the exact moment life actually asks something of you. Here's what none of them know yet. What you don't fully know yet either. In 4 months, this exact apartment is going to look completely different. One of these roommates is going to lose something he can't get back with an apology or a payment plan. And the phone on your nightstand, the one that used to feel like pressure every single time it buzzed, is about to become the reason you never have to panic again. Because somewhere in this stretch, something inside you quietly shifts. Undramatic. Almost impossible to point to on a calendar. You used to avoid opening your banking app. It used to tighten something in your stomach every single time. Now you check it the way other people check a score during a game they actually care about. Not anxiety anymore. Interest. And that shift, not the dollar amount, that shift was the real turning point of this entire story. At work, something finally moves too. A senior position opens up, small but real. And Craig, the same manager who once spoke to you like your time didn't count, pulls you aside and offers it to you. Not because of the notebook, not because of the account nobody can see, because for over a year, you've simply shown up, done the work, and never once needed to be chased down about anything. It isn't a huge raise. $2,600 more a year. But it's consistent, and it's proof that quiet discipline tends to get noticed eventually, even when nobody's clapping for it in the moment it's actually happening. Sign 5. Someone else's collapse becomes your first real test of character. You are 22 now. 18 months of small, boring, repeated decisions, stacked one on top of the other. The account, $9,400. Not life-changing. Not enough to walk away from anything. But this year, the typical net worth for someone under 35 in this country sits somewhere around $39,000. And most of that figure is concentrated in home equity and retirement accounts people your age rarely have yet. Pure liquid savings for someone 22 is, more often than not, close to zero. One night, the group chat goes unusually quiet. Tanner's Civic, the one financed at 13.9%, gets repossessed. Missed payments stacked up for 4 months, hidden behind a smile every single Friday night out. Nobody says it directly in the chat. Wes just mentions, offhand, that Tanner is figuring out a ride situation right now. You read the message twice, you don't feel superior. Not even close. You feel something quieter. Relief. Relief that 18 months of saying nah turned into a number that means you never have to send a message like that to anyone. You think about calling Tanner, then decide against it. Not because you don't care, but because you know better than anyone that the last thing a person in that spot needs is a lecture dressed up as sympathy. So instead, the next weekend, you just show up. You bring food. You don't mention the car. You don't mention money at all. You just let the night be normal for a couple of hours. Weeks later, Tanner asks you quietly, almost embarrassed, how you actually did it. Not the exact number, just how. You don't lecture him. You just tell the truth. It was never one decision. It was hundreds of small ones, repeated on nights nobody was watching. He nods slowly, like he already suspected that was going to be the answer, and hoped it wasn't. Your phone buzzes differently, one ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Not the group chat this time, a different kind of notification. Dividend payment received, $11.20. Small, almost nothing if you're only counting the number itself. But nobody paid you for a shift to earn that $11.20. Nobody clocked you in. That money exists because 18 months ago, a 20-year-old decided to be patient during a stretch of life when patience has never once been considered cool. You sit with your coffee a little longer than usual that morning. Sign 6. The people around you stop asking if you're okay and start asking how you did it. The same Friday ritual still plays out with the group. Except now when you say you're staying in, nobody questions it anymore. Nobody calls you boring. You're just the one who somehow always has money exactly when something goes wrong. You're not rich. You know that clearly, even in your own head. But for the first time, you can actually remember, money isn't something that just happens to you anymore. It's something you're building on purpose in a direction you actually chose. You walk past that same Kroger from 18 months ago. Same checkout line, a completely different version of yourself standing in it. You're still not buying the snacks. You're still choosing rice and eggs. But it isn't survival this time. It's a choice. Specific, deliberate, boring, on purpose. And that difference between having to and choosing to turns out to be almost everything. 1 year later, almost to the day since that first $50 deposit, you walk past the same building where you once saw the man on the folding table. The mattress is gone. The folding table is gone. Someone else's life is happening there now, and you'll never know how his story actually ended. But you think about him anyway, every so often. Not with fear anymore, with something closer to gratitude for a stranger who never knew he taught you anything at all. You're still 22, still early, still nowhere close to finished, still nowhere near anyone's definition of rich. But you have something almost nobody around you has, a number that keeps growing while you sleep, a choice every single Friday that most people your age never actually make, a quiet account nobody claps for and nobody ever needs to. Because here's the part, nobody tells you at 20 years old, you don't get ahead on the night everyone's watching. You get ahead on all 400 nights nobody is. You didn't save because you had extra money sitting around. You had extra money eventually because you chose to save first. That's the whole story. That's the only trick there ever was. And somewhere tonight, in some apartment you'll never see, someone is opening that same app for the very first time, $50, no card attached, no app icon on the home screen, just a quiet decision nobody will clap for. Yet,